Real. These guys, these guys ain't rappers. These guys are real gangsters.
How you hook up with Eazy-E? Cause I mean, you on Ruthless Records now.
Yeah, we plugged up with the homie 3 years ago. He heard our music through some other people.
Eazy-E was always locked in with the South Side, rolling with Crips who stood strong for him every time. But what most people never knew is that another heavy force in Compton was riding right behind him with solid loyalty. The Mexican crews that held serious influence in the streets. Some people even claim these crews were more loyal to Eazy than anybody else. And once you hear the stories, it all makes sense. One wild example came when rumors spread that the KKK had supposedly put a hit on Eazy. Nobody knows how real that threat actually was, but Eazy reportedly said that if anything had happened to him, the entire city would have exploded into chaos. And why? Because the Mexican gangs would have stepped into full action for him without hesitation. That's how deep their respect and loyalty ran. Then came all the tension between Death Row Records and Ruthless Records, a feud that felt like it could turn into a street conflict at any moment. Everyone already knew how intense Suge Knight could be, but what's becoming clearer now is that if Suge had ever tried to lay a hand on Eazy, the Latino crews were ready to move instantly. No second thoughts, no hesitation, just full protection for the man they respected. They were always prepared to stand up for him, and Eazy understood he could rely on them no matter how heated things got. He brought major pressure back toward Death Row because Suge knew better than to test the people standing with him. Eazy had genuine respect for Chicano culture and truly connected with the Latin side of hip-hop, and that love is what pushed him to sign Brownside, the Chicano rap group led by the late Toker, a figure many still call a street legend. According to Toker, the bond with Eazy came together naturally. Eazy heard one of Brownside's tracks through a mutual contact, and he didn't waste any time. He reached out, they linked up, and from that moment forward, the energy was strong. But here's what separated Brownside from a lot of other groups. They weren't just artists trying to land a record deal. These were men who had real history and serious weight behind their names in the streets. People who were around them back then would say that even standing in the same room with these guys could make someone feel their presence shake the atmosphere. Their reputation carried power, and everyone who crossed paths with them understood that right away. Part of what pulled Eazy toward the Latino crews was the family energy they carried. They treated each other like real blood, standing solid without asking a single question. Your people were your people, and they'd ride for you in a second. Eazy respected that loyalty more than anything, and he kept them close because he knew when life got dangerous, and in his world, it got dangerous often. These were the ones who would step up instantly. Eazy trusted the Brownside crew so deeply that when his health started collapsing, they were the ones he allowed to rush him to the hospital. That alone shows how real the bond was. In a moment when his life was falling apart, he didn't call just anyone. He leaned on Toker and his circle because he knew their loyalty wasn't just talk, and that love didn't break when Eazy passed away. Even after he was gone, Latino homies continued standing strong for him and his family. They showed love to his son, Lil Eazy-E, and made sure he always felt supported by people who respected what his father built. Eazy's connection to the Mexican community went much deeper than most fans ever realized. Long before he signed legendary Chicano groups or linked with Latino artists, he already had strong bonds with Mexican homies in his everyday life. One of his closest early friends was a Mexican-American named Damon Trujillo, known in the streets as Crazy D. If you look closely at the cover of NWA and the Posse, their very first album, something stands out. Fans were confused for years because NWA stood for N with Attitude, so people kept asking who the guy on the cover was that didn't fit the name. Rumors spread claiming someone snuck into the photo or that the image was edited, but none of that was true. No tricks. The man standing proudly in the picture was Crazy D, and he earned that spot. He wasn't just a friend hanging around. He was actually more involved with NWA than some members who later became core figures. MC Ren only ended up in the photo because he happened to be with the crew that day, while Crazy D had already been contributing. Crazy D wasn't just posing. He was adding creative weight. He even earned credit on NWA's first single, Panic Zone, helping shape the early sound they were building. His presence proves Eazy's bond with the Mexican community wasn't some late career move. It had been part of his world since day one. But Eazy didn't stop there. Years later, he locked in that bond even harder when he signed Brownside, led by the late Toker, along with another major Mexican rapper, Kid Frost. At a time when the mainstream didn't respect Latino rap, Eazy saw something bigger. He recognized that Chicano rap was about to become a movement with real power. Brownside became especially iconic under Eazy's guidance. They set the foundation for the entire Chicano rap sound, building a blueprint the culture still follows. But they weren't just another group chasing a trend. These were real street figures with real stories. Everything they rapped about came from actual experiences. No exaggeration, no pretending, just raw life laid out on the mic. One of the strongest stories about Brownside's loyalty to Eazy comes from the height of the Ruthless Records versus Death Row conflict, a feud that was intense on both sides. The tension between Eazy-E and Suge Knight was serious. Death Row had a reputation for being tough, and Suge Knight's intimidating presence was known everywhere. Toker later revealed that Brownside played a massive role in keeping Eazy protected during the most dangerous moments of his feud with Death Row Records. He explained that he and the Brownside crew showed up at Ruthless Records right when the tension between Eazy and Suge Knight was reaching a breaking point, almost like fate pushed them there at the perfect moment. Death Row's people thought they could pressure Eazy because they assumed he didn't have anyone standing with him, but they had it all wrong. Brownside was already posted up, ready to move for Eazy without a second thought. Toker said they told him straight up, "We're here, and we're ready to back you up no matter what." Toker also shared that during one serious conversation, they told Eazy with no hesitation that if he ever needed someone handled, he just had to say the name. Eazy tried to brush it off, saying, "It's not like that, man," trying to keep the peace, but Toker didn't buy it. He looked him in the face and said, "Nah, it's exactly like that." Toker made it clear that if Eazy ever felt threatened, they were ready to take action. Grown men, committed, loyal, and fully aware of what came with that type of stand. They were prepared in ways that showed how deep their loyalty ran. After that moment, Eazy's bond with the Mexican community became even stronger. He knew he wasn't walking into any situation alone. Fancy restaurants, major meetings, industry events. No matter where he went, he called Brownside and his Mexican homies to roll with him, and they always pulled up solid. They weren't there for decoration either. They were ready for real confrontation. Some of them were even hoping they'd run into anyone connected to Death Row just to show Eazy he had real backup every step of the way. Then came the day they finally got that chance. Toker explained that Eazy was relaxing at a cheesecake factory when 7 or 8 guys claiming Death Row ties walked in and surrounded him, trying to create pressure. They probably thought Eazy was alone and easy to corner, but they had no idea what they had stepped into. Out of nowhere, everything flipped. Those guys suddenly found themselves surrounded, not by a couple of people, but by a wave of Mexican homies who filled the entire place. Toker said it felt like they were standing in the middle of a packed soccer field. That's how many people showed up to protect Eazy. And these weren't random bystanders. These were real street figures, people known for keeping things serious and standing strong. The Death Row affiliates froze the moment they realized how outnumbered they were. Whatever intimidation they tried to bring instantly collapsed, and they panicked. Without wasting a second, they rushed out, dove into their cars, and sped off like they knew staying any longer wasn't safe. And Toker wasn't about to let them slip away without a message. He called out, "In case you want to come back, you're more than welcome. We'll be right here waiting." It was a statement, loud, bold, and impossible to misunderstand. Eazy-E was protected, and anyone trying to intimidate him would have to answer to the Mexican gangs of Compton. To really understand how heavy that moment was, you have to look back at the long history of bad blood between Eazy-E and Suge Knight. Their feud wasn't just industry trash talk. This was a rivalry with real danger behind it, the kind where situations could turn physical fast. There were even rumors that Eazy once considered confronting Suge himself, but was talked out of it for safety. The tension between Eazy, Dr. Dre, and the rest of NWA didn't start overnight either. The roots went way back, and at the center of the conflict was their manager, Jerry Heller. At the time, NWA was already becoming one of the most influential hip-hop groups ever, breaking barriers and shaking the entire industry. Behind the scenes, things inside NWA were getting messy fast. Jerry Heller's role in the group became a huge point of tension. Some people said he helped put Ruthless Records on the map, while others believed he was pulling the group apart piece by piece. From Dr. Dre's point of view, Heller wasn't managing NWA as a team at all. He was focusing almost every move on Eazy-E. To Dre and the rest of the crew, it felt like Heller was playing favorites, using a divide-and-control strategy to keep everyone separated just enough to stay in charge. That favoritism, mixed with growing questions about money, sparked resentment that couldn't be ignored any longer. Cracks in the crew's unity started showing, and those cracks got wider every day. As Ruthless Records began making serious cash, people naturally started asking questions, especially Dr. Dre and the DOC, who felt like they weren't seeing the money they deserved. They started wondering where the funds were going, and whether something behind closed doors wasn't being explained right. Seeing Eazy and Heller constantly moving together only made things worse. To Dre and the DOC, it looked like Heller was protecting Eazy's interests over everyone else's. Frustration hit a breaking point, and that's when Suge Knight stepped into the picture. Suge already had a reputation for being one of the most intimidating figures in the industry, and Dre and the DOC saw him as someone who could expose what was happening and help them break free from their contracts. They sent Suge to dig into Eazy's business dealings and find out if anything wasn't adding up. If something looked off, the plan was simple: confront Eazy and demand a release from Ruthless Records. But things didn't go the way they expected. When Dre and the DOC asked Eazy to let them walk, Eazy shut it down immediately. Eazy wasn't about to let two of his most valuable artists leave just like that. Dre was the engine behind so much of Ruthless's success, and losing him would have been a massive hit. Tension exploded from that moment forward. Suge Knight wasn't someone who backed away from pressure. He pushed harder. The story goes that during the recording of NWA's NEBS 4 Life album, Suge made a dramatic move. He allegedly told Eazy that he had grabbed Jerry Heller and was keeping him in a van outside the studio. A shocking claim meant to shake things up. But even after hearing that, Eazy still refused to release Dre and the DOC. He stood firm, not letting threats change his decision. But Suge wasn't done pushing. If one tactic didn't work, he came with another. That's when he pulled a chilling move. He handed Eazy a piece of paper with an address on it. It was the address of someone close to Eazy, someone he deeply cared about. That moment changed everything instantly. The message behind it didn't need a single extra word. Eazy understood what Suge was trying to imply, and he felt boxed in from all directions. With pressure hitting him from every angle, Eazy felt like he had no choice left. He reluctantly signed the release papers, freeing Dr. Dre and the DOC from their ruthless contracts and effectively handing Dre over to Suge Knight's Death Row Records. Years later, this moment became legendary. One of the most talked about, speculated, and retold stories in hip-hop history. Some people even spread claims that Suge and his crew physically roughed up Eazy to force his signature. The Straight Outta Compton movie added fuel to the rumor by dramatizing a scene where Suge supposedly put hands on Eazy to make him comply. But now that more information is out, especially about Eazy's strong ties to the Mexican community, that version of the story doesn't make sense. Eazy wasn't out here alone, not even close. Besides having Mexican crews standing with him, he was also closely connected with the Southside Crips, a serious presence in Compton. One of his major connections was Keef D, a name that carried weight and influence in the Compton street scene. Eazy had real support, real alliances, and real people behind him. Keef D's family owned Compton Hydraulics, a legendary spot on Long Beach Boulevard where cars, street culture, and music energy all collided in one place. This wasn't just a shop. It was a neighborhood landmark where real players crossed paths every day. Eazy grew up right in the middle of Southside Crip territory, deep in the Kelly Park Compton Crip area, so the environment around him shaped his world in a big way. His close ties to Keef D's brother Kevin brought him into that circle with real respect, not just music ties, but personal bonds that ran deep. And when Eazy shot the video for his iconic diss track Real G's in 1993, he wasn't sending hidden messages. He was making everything loud and clear for anyone paying attention. The video is loaded with visuals linking Eazy to the Southside Crips, and one standout lowrider, known as Gangster of Love, was said to belong either to a respected Southside Crip named Big Spank or someone from Keef D's family. The people in that video weren't actors or random extras. They were part of Eazy's real circle, throwing up Southside signs and showing who they stood with. The Seattle Mariners hats popping up in the video weren't fashion choices. The big S stood for Southside, and the blue colors made the message even louder. Eazy rocked a blue Mariners cap with a yellow S himself, putting his connections on display without hiding anything. Adding even more heat was BG Knockout, one of the rappers featured on the track and someone tied to the Compton Nutty Block Crips. BG Knockout and the rest of the crew backing Eazy were known for being extremely loyal, sending a loud warning that Eazy wasn't someone you could approach without respect. Both BG Knockout and Keith D have publicly shut down the idea that Suge Knight ever put hands on Eazy. In their words, that story is pure imagination, nothing more. They explained that doing something like that would have risked a serious conflict with the Southside Crips, and nobody in their right mind would try something that reckless. The same doubt surrounds the story about Suge supposedly threatening Eazy's mother by giving him a paper with her address. People close to the situation believe the tale was exaggerated or never happened at all. It just doesn't match the reality of the protection Eazy had around him. And that's also why many people don't believe the theory that Suge Knight had anything to do with Eazy's death. Think about it. With the Mexican community and the Southside Crips standing behind Eazy, there's no chance someone could have crossed that kind of line without facing serious consequences. The streets would have answered immediately if they believed anyone had gone after Eazy in that way. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and stay locked in for the next one. We've got even more stories coming that you won't want to miss. See you in the next video.